Balaram, what is one assumption an educator has made about you you wish they knew was not true?
I think one thing, especially that happens a lot in classes, is when a professor says something and after some time they ask for questions and it's gone over almost everyone's head. No one understands what's going on, and there's no questions, of course, because how do you ask a question when you don't? When you basically your question is, can you repeat everything? That's just it's a lot of pressure. It's just too much to ask in a class. And with that, professors just assume, and it's really like when you're an educator and when you're in that situation, it's really hard to judge what to is like. There's either like no one gets it or everyone gets it. It's completely there's two extremes, and most of the time it's easier for them just to be like, okay, no one get and everyone gets it. It's fine. We'll just move on, and it works for them. And then after that, like unless you have some time in office hours or you have to read up on it or something, you have to do a lot of self work to get to a point where you can try to understand it and try to ask a good question. And I think that's a lot of, and that's a very annoying impression that's there. I don't want to say it's wrong because I don't know if there's a solution even, so I can't say it's wrong, but it's a very annoying impression that exists in like a class setting with educators and students where no questions essentially equals that it's a perfect understanding. And that's a little tough one, yeah.
In almost every single one of my STEM courses and other courses, to be honest, if I can understand for a consecutive 5 minutes of lecture, I am on like the clouds, right? Like you're like really lucky to be able to do that. Um, so then the reality is there's a lot of gaps of understanding for me and the material being presented, which means the solution that I found that's been most valuable is to track those questions as they arise during lecture. So write them down or type them out,
Yes.
refine them at the end of class or during break, and really seek out help. You mentioned office hours. You mentioned like just searching, right?
Hmm.
We're living in an abundance of information, and that's not always been the case. But there's some cost to that because Google, to be honest, doesn't really care if we learn CS. So when we search our question, it's not always going to be the best response in the first couple of hits.
Right, right.
um, Tutoring, finding like just help seeking practices, like take that part seriously, right? But yes, for me, tracking those questions as lecture is happening so I don't lose where those gaps are. If I lose where those gaps are and just do the assignment, it's really overwhelming, right?
It is, yes. That's also something I actually started this year with upper division classes. It's much harder and understanding is much more important. Here, I have my notebook. This one is just for questions. It's just like a list of questions for each single person I talk to. Like if it's an office hour, I will like prepare the whole week. I'll have a bunch of questions. I'll like prioritize which one I want to ask first according to how much time I get with the professor. And then I just go off. And then that's really, really helped me in getting to this point. And another thing regarding this idea of questions is like, this is an impression, of course, like the dumb question. And the dumb question is like either it's something that doesn't matter, or it's just like it's not a question, it's just asking for a repetition, or it's just asking for a re-explanation. And at least when, because one situation I was in was I was taking a grad course in an undergrad. And in that situation, it's, I don't know, for me at least, I feel like I can't act like I don't know. I'm like slowing down the class. You know what I mean? Like just because I'm not at their level, I don't want to be like annoying everyone. Like everyone knows the answer. I'm the one that's asking, and that was really scary. Like to like think what question should I ask right now? What should I not? And at that point, like of course, like my head, I could not deal with asking like a re-explanation. So sometimes a grad student would ask for a re-explanation. I'm like, oh, okay, that gave me a little confidence. Like I can ask this and it's fine. But yeah, those like these kind of situations, it's a little hard to figure out, and I think a good way to do it is like spend a separate time for that and to actually spend time understanding what your question is before, like of course the re-explanation, the professor doesn't know what to say. Like if he's going to say the same words, how is it going to go back in your head perfectly? It's not going to penetrate either. So I don't know, somehow finding that gap and understanding what that gap is extremely important. Yeah.
Many professors, managers, parents, they have what we might call expert blind spot. They're so
Yes.
they've done something for so long, for such a long time, they forgot what it felt like to be in our shoes, right? And that's not totally on them. Um, I so there's this book called A More Beautiful Question, and I think we should both write a blog post on both of our blogs in not necessarily the nuances from this book, because you probably don't have the book, but just like what it means to ask good questions in class, right? Especially with online learning now, like it'd be so cool to provide an anonymous chat feature where not only questions could be asked, but there's some type of promise that a tutor, an embedded tutor, or TA, or someone
Mhm.
at the success centers will respond to those questions in a way that is actually provided to everyone in that class, right? Because
There's
the
actually
longer,
something like that in one of my classes right now, which I really love. It's all the questions, and they have a Q&A session that's without a time limit, and they go over every single question from that lecture. And it's been amazing to have, and all the students have benefited from that. And like, I think, yeah, there's initiatives like that, it's nice, especially with the online setting. It's easier because it doesn't take, you're not interrupting the class by asking a question anymore. You can just post it in the chat.
yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to end the local recording really quickly
Mm-hmm.
for this clip.